Hi, this is Jeff Bish. I've been a trader for over 20 years, and as co-founder of MarketGauge.com, I hope that by sharing my insights about trading in the markets, I can help you reach your trading goals. In this video, I want to talk about volume, intraday volume. In prior videos, I talked about big volume on an end-of-day basis and how if you analyze volume in a very simplistic way, you can simply take a price bar that has a huge volume. If you imagine this white bar to be a price bar and imagine it's got huge volume, and then use that to bracket a price range and follow the market in whichever direction that volume bar goes. If you'll do that on an end-of-day chart and focus on what we would call skyscraper, huge volume bars, it really will give you a leg up on the markets in a very simplistic way. Now there's a lot more to analyzing volume, but that's a great start. Now the next question would naturally be, well, what about intraday volume? And at what times of the day should you be looking for volume patterns? Well, if you're familiar at all with Market Gauge, you know that we're big advocates of the opening range, the first X minutes of the day, being a very good and statistically significant indicator of what the market's going to do for the rest of the day if you know how to use it. Well, naturally then, looking for big volume in the first 5 to 30 minutes of the day can really give you a leg up on how the market, how your stock is going to trade, and likewise identify significant support and resistance that you can use during the day. Let me give you some examples. Right now we're looking at Marvel. I'll clean it up. And I want you to focus on two different areas. I want you to focus on the first bar that has very unusual volume. I mean huge volume. And then the next thing you want to look at when you're looking at volume in the morning is whether or not that volume continued, whether or not you got a, and in this case I'm using Marvel has got a really great volume example in that the first bar was big and then it continued to be big for a number of bars. And so what you want to do is bracket in those areas, and they will give you a very good sense of where the supply and the demand is for that particular day. And so if you're trading OR breakouts or failures or even swing trading and looking for entries and exits, you want to be very aware of these price points because there's all kinds of patterns that develop around them. You can see here with Marvel that once we broke out of the first volume bar, it ran up, came back, retraced to the top of the volume bar. Could say this consolidated with good volume in here if you were looking at it from a bigger picture, broke out and ran up again. Okay, so for a day trader, these are really valuable patterns. When it came back, tried to consolidate, but the market's weak, the market's pulling back. Now if it breaks down into this level, it's another level of concern, and certainly if we break the low of the volume bar, that is an even more important level of concern. So the price action is pretty good here, not as good as it could be, but the volume pattern is really clear in terms of what you want to look out for. If we look further, when I say look further, if we were to bring the box further of where all the volume has traded and look at it more in terms of first 60 minutes had nice strong volume, if Marvel gets above that level, you're really going to want to pay attention to it. Alright, let's take a look at another one. Let's take a look at one going the opposite direction. Okay, so same day, different stock. Again, first volume bar, first 5 minutes, huge volume. So big it almost dwarfs the fact that in the first 30 minutes you still had strong volume. These are big volume bars, you just don't see it because the first one's so big. So box it in, happens to line up with yesterday's low as well. So when that breaks down, you know that's a pretty significant volume bar. Sorry, pretty significant breakdown. Breaks down almost $1. Okay, and again, that's because you've got a lot of volume built up here. All right, and if I clear this up, now if we look at the first half hour of volume, we're going to want to pay attention to these lines. We start trading back down below these volume areas, it's going to continue to be quite negative for Autodesk. Okay, so big volume, next direction you take is incredibly important. Let's look at one more. So if you're focusing on big volume right in the morning, identifying the stocks that have that big volume, doesn't mean they're all going to move right away, but clearly you can see you've got a big volume cluster in here in that first half hour. So here's the low of that range, here's the high of the first bar, but let's make it the whole range. So first thing you'll be saying is, okay, if we take out the high of this volume range, I really want to be paying attention to this. Obviously you want to go look at the daily chart, there's a little more, but this is just focus on volume. The other little nuance here is that notice where the volume range really bottoms out. Right here. Okay, so pay attention to where the volume range really is if you've got a situation like you have here where you've got one bar that is unusually large, but the volume continues to trade in a tighter pattern. Here's a similar situation. You've got a big initial volume bar, so that should really catch your attention, and then volume continues for the rest of the half an hour at a pretty good clip. Notice we weren't really able to get through the top of that volume bar, and the volume continued to consolidate in here, so I would be taking this range and saying that's the top range. I don't want to see it get below there. If it gets above here, that's bullish. Below here is questionable. Okay, so taking the same concept that I've talked about in other videos, a big volume, expanding it to a range, and having that range be the early morning is incredibly powerful. Now the way that I'm able to do this, or scan for this, is through our product called Hot